I'm a Detroit police officer named been a cop for 30 years.
You know, this is very embarrassing.
Yeah, well, you should have thought of that before your little joyride back there.
Axel Foley is who you describe as a police detective loved by all of Detroit. While the city is present for the Detroit Red Wings hockey game, including Axel, some other shady people are also active. However, Axel isn't just there for the game. He knows the place is about to be robbed. Giving Mike Woody, his partner, a pair of binoculars, he says,
You see Junior Bollinger? He's been working with the 7 Mile crew that killed that jeweler down in Berkeley.
Though the lieutenant has taken Axel off the crew's case, Axel hasn't taken himself off it. That's why he's putting Mike in front, as the person who discovered Junior and then decided they should take him down since they're luckily at the game. Junior is cuffed while Axel goes to confront the guys busy stealing in the locker room. Though one points the gun at him, threatening his very existence, Axel snatches the gun and holds him hostage in a matter of seconds. The others aim their guns at Axel, but a security guard pretending to be part of the hostages suddenly attacks Axel, creating distraction. The robbers instantly flee, shooting at Axel to stop him from following them. Well, Axel refuses to be on the losing side and also gives a hot chase. Already tired from the little action, Mike breathlessly says,
God, you know, most guys your age are starting to slow down, taking desk jobs, trying to relax a little bit.
Well, for Axel, this is relaxation at the highest peak. He switches to plan B, asking a driver for his snowplow while showing his badge. The man doesn't take him seriously at all until Axel produces his gun. Preferring to live, he hastily comes down. Escaping on a power bike, Axel tells Mike to call it in. Mike begins calling his wife, telling her about the exciting chase, but Axel, confused, quickly stops him. It's the station, not the wife. Mike finally does it right, while Axel drives like a madman, crashing into things with the snowplow. When Deputy Chief Jeffrey learns Axel is involved, he says,
Woody, let me talk to the Motor City shitbag.
Mike tries to spin the story, but Jeffrey isn't having it. Axel begins spinning the same story, but Jeffrey knows it's a big lie, because Mike hasn't solved any crime in 5 years. After several destruction of cars and city property, Axel finally corners the robber, who is beyond surprised by the entire chase. The next morning, Axel is applauded by the department for catching the robber, but when he enters Jeffrey's office, it's a different thing entirely. Jeffrey has just been berated by the police commissioner for 45 minutes, all because of Axel. Jeffrey always covers for Axel as a friend, but it seems like those days are over because he says,
I just turned in my papers.
Axel can't believe this, but Jeffrey is serious. He wants to spend his remaining years with his family, his grandchildren. Axel points out that Jeffrey doesn't even like his grandchildren, but Jeffrey defends himself. He backfires, asking Axel the last time he spoke to Jane, his daughter. This manages to shut Axel up, but when Jeffrey longingly looks at a picture of their younger selves, he realizes something. Jeffrey isn't just retiring because of family time, he's actually doing it to protect Axel. Axel tries telling him the city needs them, but Jeffrey feels it's just a job at the end of the day. Before leaving, he says,
Talk to your daughter.
Meanwhile, Jane, who's a defense attorney, pays a visit to a man named Sam Enriquez in jail. He's been framed for the murder of undercover officer Copeland, and Jane has decided to take his case pro bono. He doesn't seem to trust her, but Jane reminds him, in his mother tongue, that he doesn't really have much of a choice if he wants to spend his next 20 years away from his daughter. She asks him about the charges leveled against him, but he claims to be innocent. She tells him that the evidence against him is strong, and persuades him to be clear and honest. Enriquez explains everything that happened that fateful day.
We're headed to the drop. Copeland, undercover cop, whatever, he's driving.
And then?
He spots a black SUV tailing us. Tries to call somebody, but his phone wouldn't work.
Turns out Copeland realized that his cover had been blown and started to panic. An SUV pulled up beside them and a masked man shot Copeland down. With Copeland incapacitated, Sam grabbed the wheel and took charge, ramming their car into the SUV, but he lost control. When he regains consciousness, he realizes he's next to the dead body with a gun on his lap. He is arraigned in court, but before his trial, Jane advocates for an investigation into the late cop's financial records, stating that she suspects criminal activity. She gets interrupted by the opposing counsel, but the judge grants her permission for them to proceed with the subpoena. Jane immediately gets to work on the subpoena and his taxes, but just as she gets into her car, she is attacked by masked men. They tell her to drop the Enrique case and then push her car over an edge. She is only saved by the rope holding the car, but the threat on her life is clear. She is saved by an ambulance, and while she is being questioned, Rosewood, a friend of her father, comes up to her. He asks her what happened, and she tells him that her life was threatened.
Same day I accused a cop of being in the game,
she says. Rosewood tells her to drop the case, saying that he doesn't want to have to tell her father that he got killed, but Jane is just as stubborn as her father. She asks him to keep it between the both of them, and Rosewood remarks that though she likes to think she is nothing like her father, she and Axel are exactly the same. Jane clearly doesn't like to hear this, but she only proves his point when she turns down the suggestion to get checked out at the hospital. That same night, Axel gets a call from Billy Rosewood and starts joking around, until he hears that it's about Jane. Immediately, Axel becomes serious as Rosewood tells him about the case. He admits that he asked her if there would be anyone at her firm to represent Enriquez, but Axel already knows that she would take on the case instead. Rosewood tells Axel that they are seriously trying to scare her off the case, and the case is way bigger than her. He apologizes for getting her involved, as Axel promises that he'll be on the very next plane to them. Rosewood confides that he's at an impound yard, where he just secured some vital evidence, but Axel warns him to be careful till he gets there. Rosewood, however, insists that he has one more stop, before he goes to pick up Axel from the airport the following morning. But just as Rosewood steps out, binoculars in hand, he is accosted by 2 guns pointed at his head. Meanwhile, Axel's friend Jeffrey takes him to the airport. Axel is still convinced that Jeffrey will get tired of being a homebody and come back to the workforce, but Jeffrey doesn't think so. He reminds him to talk to his daughter and fix things. There is clearly some unresolved tension between the two of them. Jeffrey warns him to be careful.
You're not 22 anymore.
But that doesn't scare Axel at all. Axel arrives in Beverly Hills and has to take care of himself since Billy didn't come to pick him up. Oblivious to the tragedy that Billy encountered, he sends him a voicemail, asking him to call him back soon, saying that he's on his way to Billy's office. The city is alive with different personalities, most of whom look like celebrities and filthy rich people. When Axel gets to Rosewood's office, he finds some suspicious-looking men rifling through his things. He immediately kicks into action, pretending to be one of them, sent by a superior, while he looks at Rosewood's table and picks up some clues. But at that same moment, one of the thugs sees a picture of Rosewood with Axel and alerts the others. Axel denies it, but it's obviously a lie. Axel grabs a fire extinguisher and attacks them by surprise, giving himself a few seconds head start on the chase that is sure to occur. In no time, the thugs find a way out of the house and go after Axel. He takes off in a small vehicle, angering a meter lady who attacks him with her pepper spray. In no time, Axel manages to create a chaos reminiscent of the one he created in the streets of Detroit barely 48 hours ago. The previously peaceful and classy city gets the Axel touch, with people running around, trying to save themselves from all the recklessness and violence around them. The goons are frustrated with the chase, as one of them remarked,
What a slippery bastard.
One of them continues the chase in a car, but at some point, Axel's vehicle tumbles, while trying to avoid crashing into something, and the drama is over. Police officers come out immediately to arrest him. He tries to tell them that he's a police officer and his badge is in his pocket, but they don't even let him. This doesn't even surprise him, though. He says,
I've been a cop for 30 years. I've been black a whole lot longer. Trust me, I know better.
At the police station, Axel asks to see the chief, who he knows personally, but the detective in charge is preoccupied with Axel's interesting record of disturbance and whatnot. Axel still insists on speaking to the chief, Taggart, but the detective is hell-bent on charging Axel first. Giving up on manners, Axel picks the handcuffs and drops it on the table next to the detective, who is overwhelmed with surprise. Misspent youth, Axel explains.
Then I'd like to call my lawyer.
Jane, who is still trying to get a hold on Billy Rosewood without success, gets a call from Axel. As soon as she hears he's the one, she disconnects the call. Axel tries again, and she disconnects it again. She gets another call from him, and this time, before she can end it, Axel mentions Rosewood. This gets her moving. When Axel sees her, he is overcome with emotions and is clearly glad to see her, but Jane is cold, acting all professional about Rosewood and her client. Axel tries to talk to her, but Jane scoffs at the situation. The detective walks in and exchanges a look with Jane. Jane tells the detective, Bobby, that Axel is her dad, and Bobby informs Axel that Taggart does want to see him. When Axel meets Taggart, they greet like old friends, and Taggart introduces Axel to a man named Cade Grant, who now runs their narcotics department. Grant comments on how famous Axel is, and they go on to talk about Billy. Taggart thinks Billy is on a conspiracy theory, and for the first time, Axel hears that the person Jane is defending is a cop killer. Despite his surprise, he stands by his daughter's opinion that the cop was dirty, asking,
Well, how well do you know Copeland?
Grant goes on to give shining recommendations on Copeland's character, saying he was one of his men and the real deal, too. Axel apologizes and Grant leaves. Outside, Bobby offers to walk Jane to the door, and as they talk, it is revealed that they had a thing briefly, but then Jane disappeared. They exchange their complicated feelings towards their families, and it is clear that there is still some tension between them. At the door to the police department, Axel stops Jane to talk to her. She still doesn't want to talk to him, but he is bent on finding out what happened to Rosewood. He tells her that Rosewood was at an impound the previous night, and just that morning, there were people searching through his house. He also shares that Captain Grant looks suspicious too, especially from his $2,000 Gucci shoes, which couldn't have come from a police salary.
Something is up.
he says. Jane doesn't want to speak to him, but when Axel reminds her that Rosewood could be in danger, she agrees to cooperate, only so Axel can go back home the following morning and let them return to their routine. A familiar song from Jane's childhood plays on the radio, and Axel gets caught up in memories. But Jane insists that they stay professional. He tells her that he had to send his family from Detroit to keep them safe, but Jane is not moved.
Did the 12th Street Mafia tell you to get a divorce and stay in Detroit?
She asks. Axel replies that that was her mother's idea, adding that she's 10 times worse than the 12th Street Mafia. He asks about her case and why she's sure of her client, and of Copeland working for a drug dealer named Cellino, who is also Sam's uncle. Axel asks if she still has her gun, or at least goes to the shooting range. Jane says no, adding that she has forgotten all the cop stuff he taught her, like escaping a trunk, a handcuff, and stuff like that. He tries to explain that that was just his way of showing love in the ways he knows best. Jane then asks,
And so what is he saying when he stops trying?
This shuts Axel up, and they ride quietly till they get to the impound. When they arrive, Axel looks around, and with some sharp deductive and acting skills, he gets into the head of the worker, subtly steering the conversation until the unsuspecting worker reveals that there was a break-in the previous night. The worker, thrilled by the idea of being the lead in a movie, even goes as far as showing CCTV footage of the break-in. Jane is marveled by her father's skills, impressed despite herself, as Axel manages to get the worker to take them to the impound for research. As they walk, Jane spots Copeland's car. Axel examines it and finds a camera with a missing SD card. This means there is footage of Copeland's murder, and that's what the thugs were likely searching for in Billy's office. Jane points out that there was no mention of this in the police report. Axel praises her investigative skills, attributing it to their blood, but Jane warns him to stop trying to bond. As they get to their car, Axel announces to her that they are being followed by the thugs who hope they will lead them to the evidence they seek to destroy. In no time, he finds the tracker and shows her, saying,
We got a fan club.
True to his word, as soon as they start moving, the thugs follow. Axel suggests they identify who's tailing them, so he places the tracker on a school bus. The pursuing car follows the bus, and Axel sees that it's 2 of the men from Rosewood's office. By the time they realize Axel has outsmarted them, he's already evaded them. Meanwhile, Axel teases Jane about changing her name from Jane Foley to Jane Saunders, insisting Saunders has a weak ring to it. Jane giggles despite herself, though still irritated with him. That night, they follow the thugs to a private club. Axel tries to bluff his way in under the guise of a surprise inspection, but the doorman doesn't buy it. Just before his cover is blown, Jane walks in with a much stronger cover story and proceeds with the questioning. He lets them in, holding his breath in fear of offending Jane, the special liaison to the mayor's office. As soon as they get in, Axel commends Jane's sharpness as she remarks that she was saving him because it was hard to watch. Axel disagrees, insisting she looked transfixed.
Watching Daddy at work.
Before she can reply, she spots the thugs at a table with Captain Grant. They approach, and Axel asks why the thugs were at Rosewood's place. Grant claims Rosewood stole a crucial piece of evidence. Jane questions why he didn't use cops, and he argues that official procedures would have been too slow. He admits
It helps to have somebody outside the official chain of command.
he tries to get into their heads, talking about how Jane is defending the very people Axel tries to put away. He asks Axel how he feels about that, but Axel merely remarks on the expensive Rolex he has on. Grant is not fazed.
All I know is I earned it, and I'm going to enjoy it.
Back in the car, Axel and Jane talk about the situation. They are both sure that Grant knows what happened to Copeland, and knows that they know, but he doesn't care,
Which means he's dangerous.
Jane observes. They move on into another personal argument on whether Jane chose to be a criminal defense attorney to piss Axel off, and the argument gets on Jane's nerves. She asks Axel to leave her car. She tells him to go back to Detroit and reach out in another 5 years.
We didn't mess this up. You messed this up. Goodbye.
She says emotionally. Axel admits defeat and gets off. He's still leaving messages for Rosewood as he drives to a hotel and lodges in, exhausted. The following morning, he drives out, following the address he tore from a book in Rosewood's office. Meanwhile, Jane gets word of an appointment at her firm. On getting to her office, she comes face to face with Axel. She asks her secretary to throw him out, but Axel presents the torn paper, asking what it means to her. He explains that he saw the guys from the previous night at that address, but Jane wants to talk to Sam. Axel offers to help, but she reminds him that he's not a lawyer. Eventually, she agrees, on the condition that he returns to Detroit immediately after. Meanwhile, back at the police station, Detective Bobby brings Taggart the file, saying that he just found out about the camera in the car. Taggart warns him to drop it and stop trying to be interesting. Insistent, Bobby asks Taggart to look at it, and when Taggart notices the missing SD card, Bobby tells him,
So it seems to me, sir, that things are getting a little more interesting all by themselves.
Bobby leaves and starts tailing Axel. Axel notices and tells Jane, but as they start a discussion that is already morphing into an argument, Bobby realizes that some thugs are about to take out their car and jumps into action. Next thing, there are gunshots ringing everywhere, and Axel narrowly saves Jane from a bullet while maneuvering the steering. Bobby immediately calls for backup as the thugs move in, firing more shots at the destroyed car, not knowing that Jane and Axel are already out. They catch a reflection of Axel, and just as they are about to end him, Bobby shoots at them, saving Axel. Later, at the station, Bobby says that Jane broke up with him, saying she couldn't date a cop. This makes Axel change the topic back to their investigation. But before they go far, Taggart summons Axel. He talks about the case Bobby just showed him. He insists Billy was wrong for accusing Grant of being dirty. Axel tries to persuade him to help their friend, asking him to be a cop again, but this only angers Taggart, who throws Axel out of his office and suspends Bobby. This doesn't dissuade Axel. He is determined to solve the case. Bobby comes to join them, and they all meet up at Jane's house that evening to discuss the case. Axel comments on how comfortable Bobby is, as they figure out how to get close enough to the address from Billy's book. Axel gets the help of his old friend, Serge, who gets them into the house next door. He introduces them to the agent, Ashley, as prospective buyers, saying that Axel wants to buy it for his daughter and her husband. In the guise of looking around, Axel sneaks off to spy on the suspicious house. Returning, Axel pretends to dislike the house and they leave, but the thugs inside have already spotted him and inform Grant. Grant cautions against more killings, insisting they focus on finding the SD card. Meanwhile, Axel, Jane, and Bobby have secured some evidence but realize the SD card is key. Jane, however, has enough for her case, but the men are not satisfied. She scoffs and accuses Axel of being selfish, always trying to play the hero. He insists that he came to help her, but she's not buying it.
Classic Axel Foley.
She tells him that he only fought for his job, never for her, and she walks away, heartbroken. Afterwards, as the men drive to Shalino's place, Bobby suggests that a heartfelt apology might make a big difference, but Axel insists that he owes no one an apology since Jane shut him out. They walk into a bar, where Shalino is performing a song. Axel tries to get his attention by feeding his ego, but Shalino is not that person. Guns appear, and Bobby jumps in, offering to help his nephew in exchange for Grant. Shalino is doubtful, threatening Bobby's life, but Axel tells him that he's doing it to keep his own daughter safe. This convinces Chelino to cooperate. He tells them that Grant is the kingpin, with dirty cops working with him, protecting the cartel's interests. He says that Copeland was killed for trying to go clean and talking to Rosewood. Rosewood was caught at the drug port, but Chelino refuses to say more. At this, Axel and Bobby head out, knowing that the shipment would leave the same day. As soon as they step out, they are accosted by Grant's men, who have planted drugs in Bobby's car to frame him. Back at the station, Grant talks to Axel, insinuating that he went bad because the job hardly rewarded him for his efforts. As soon as he leaves, Axel thinks of how to bust himself out. Meanwhile, Taggart gets a call that Grant arrested Foley and Bobby. It sounds ridiculous to him, so he goes to work immediately. Grant comes back to the interrogation room and sees a hole in the ceiling. He assumes Axel escaped through there and climbs to check, only for Axel to jump out, yanking his chair and knocking him out. Axel takes his keys and escapes with Bobby to the helicopter on the roof. His pilot skills come to play, and he takes off with the helicopter. A very nervous Bobby explains to a panicking Axel that the reason he quit being a pilot was because he crashed a chopper and couldn't get over it since. Well, this helicopter hovers just over the ground, at risk of crashing multiple times, especially with Grant shooting at them. They crash on someone's golf course, then escape from the golf course. They meet a valet who Axel tries to convince to lend them a car for the sake of justice, but the absence of his ID card ruins it all. However, Bobby manages to sneak a key away. Meanwhile, Jane meets with Taggart and hears about her father being arrested. Taggart regrets ignoring Rosewood, while Jane starts talking about the mean things she said. Taggart reminds her that Axel cares for her. She records a message for Axel, but before she can leave, a gunman forces her into her car. That same night, Axel and Bobby start looking for the port Chelino talked about, but it proves difficult. Eventually, they see some familiar things, including Rosewood's car. They move in and discovers Rosewood tied up and beaten. They give him a signal, and Rosewood distracts his captors long enough for Axel and Bobby to come in and attack. In no time, the captors are down, and Rosewood is freed. But Rosewood doesn't rest. He picks up a gun and goes after the drug dealers with his comrades. They steal the truck of drugs and escape. Rosewood reveals the SD card is hidden inside a knife in his office, and they try to tell Jane. But Grant picks the call and asks Axel to bring the SD card in an hour before he does something to Jane. Axel immediately calls Jeffrey to track Jane's phone. He finds out that Grant gave a false location. Rosewood remarks that they would need some backup, but Bobby replies,
"We're fugitives driving a truck full of cocaine."
So Axel goes on a rampage, hitting police cars and alerting them to give chase, saying he is getting them some backup. As they speed off, some of the statues with coke embedded in them fall off and break open. At Grant's mansion, he gloats to Jane about his plan, but Axel crashes into the mansion with the truck, gunshots raining from every angle. Jane wishes Grant a sarcastic good luck against beating her dad. As he goes out, Rosewood goes out of bullets, but gets saved by Taggart, who comes just in time and also hands him a gun. As the chaos goes on, Grant sneaks out of the room, just as Axel moves around the house looking for him. Jane takes her time to start working the handcuffs off of her wrists. Then she sneakily grabs a vase and hits the head of the guard and steals his gun. Axel finally finds Grant, who is also pointing a gun at him. Grant sees one of his men and tries to distract Axel so his guy can shoot him, but Jane shoots the guy first. In that moment, Grant pulls his gun to shoot at Jane, but Axel jumps in the way and gets hit in the shoulder. As she rushes to Axel, Grant tries to take another shot at her, but Bobby shoots him straight in the forehead. Afterwards, as the ambulance takes Axel, Taggart apologizes to Rosewood for not believing in him earlier. Later, Jane goes to see Axel in the hospital, where she hears that he'd have to stay a bit longer, despite his fast recovery. On getting to his room, she finds that he has disappeared, leaving the plate of healthy food given by the hospital. Unsurprised, she tracks him down to a junk spot, where she updates him on how well the investigation has been going. Axel admits to his wrongs, and Jane admits to hers, tears in her eyes. She asks him to get well so they can give their relationship another shot. He freaks out a bit when she calls him dad and helps him up, taking him back to the hospital. A few days later, Axel meets up with his old buddies, Rosewood and Taggart, who were supposed to be watching to make sure he didn't escape from the hospital. They somehow did not notice him sneaking out, but that doesn't stop them from obliging his request to go eat some steak. Age has nothing on these men. If you've made it to the end, hit the like button, comment, and share. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next recap.